afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank Breaking Convention and those people who have had a hand in putting this section of the conference together. My name is Kilindi Iyi, and I'm basically a martial artist, ancient and traditional African fighting sciences. And what I do inside of that is utilize the power plants of those martial arts, because all martial arts have power plants to go with them, whether it be Kung Fu, Aikido, Tai Chi. They all utilize plants or fungi to augment the training at the higher levels and also to deal with the sensitivity. So when you see ninjutsu and sword fighting and all that kind of stuff, it has an entheogenic area to it. So that was my way of being able to include myself in understanding entheogens in the mushrooms, and then bringing it out as a specialty many years ago. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me. First, there's a caveat, like with Darren. They asked me to come and do this, so we have a proverb says that if you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, the only one that hollers is the one that gets hit. So meaning that if I'm not talking to you and you're not part of one of those classes of folks, don't get upset because I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to who I'm talking to. First of all, dealing with the lack of diversity in the psychedelic community, well, the first thing is that the people who really need to be in this section, sitting in the audience, aren't here. They're someplace else. You can. Like to, first of all, dedicate this talk to Kai Wingo, who passed last year. She spoke at the 2015 conference. She was one of the most courageous sojourners of the multiverse and a lover of fungi and mushrooms. She has the Buckeye Mushroom Farm in Cleveland, Ohio, where she cultivated gourmet and medicinal mushrooms and also psychedelic mushrooms. She was, her next dose was going to be about 30 dry grams of psilocybin, and she passed before that, so she went on a grander and longer trip. So I dedicate this to Kai. Kai put together a conference in 2015 called the Women in Entheogens Conference. And it dealt with the lack of diversity in basically including women in the psychedelic conferences. So she put together a conference to deal with women and women's contributions inside of the psychedelic community, because most of the conferences now, they're bringing in more women because it's politically correct, you know, and I can see them when they're looking at the abstracts of people who put in papers, you know, okay, we got 3 women, okay, who's that black guy? The big black guy, the martial arts guy. Yeah, let's get him so he can be. Then we got a black guy, we got 3 women. Okay, we're good now. Let's go. You know. So it's kind of funny, but that's kind of how it is. You know, you have your A team, your top tier folks, and you have your B team, then you have your C team. You know, you can go to a conference. I can go to a conference. And this is years ago, this was in the 90s and things like that. I'd go to a conference, it'd be 500 people there, 1,000 people there, and I'd be the only person of color at the conference. And if there was another person of color at the conference, they were with their white friends and they didn't want to be associated with me because, you know, they with their white friends and they don't want to be with a black guy. So this went on for a long time. You know, and I would apply to conferences and things like that, and you know, you get the rejection. Sometimes you get picked to be there. It wasn't a problem because I looked at a larger picture of eventually more and more people of color, more women being part of these conferences legitimately and not on the C team. In other words, what I mean by C team is, yes, you have your picture in the brochure and you're part of the conference, but they put you on at 9 o'clock Sunday morning after the party that ended at 7:30 And at the party, you know, like in Australia, you know, you have like doof parties, you know. You all know what doof parties are, right? Well, doof party is, that's it. Doof, 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 doof. And you got, you know, and you know, they're smoking cannabis, of course, and dropping acid, eating, you know, 2 or 3 grams of mushrooms, smoking salvia, you know, drinking vodka, MDMA, all at the same time, all the same night, at the party all night, doof, 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 doof. And after the party, that's when you go on, not on the main stage when people will be there. So you got one guy, he's laid out, he's still got the joint in his mouth. And that's your audience, and that's who you talk to. And I did that for quite a long time. Where there'd be 2 or 3 people there, the organizers of the conference never come by to see, never come to the lecture, never film the lecture, but I continue and continue because that's what folks who pioneer do, because this is something that I feel is should be available to everybody and to the world, and people shouldn't be excluded because of money. And how we address that, because I didn't just, from this year's Breaking Convention, think about diversity in the psychedelic movement. What we did was, please, go back. We created our own psychedelic conferences with the Women in Entheogens Conference and the Detroit Psychedelic Conference, where we had speakers who were of color and gave them a chance to be able to extend and to share their particular experiences inside of what we were doing and things that we loved and things that we thought were important as far as the psychedelic community. So this was a kind of breakthrough in our community because it gave us a chance to be able to look at these things in a different light. Because basically in the African Caribbean community, this is looked at as a white folks thing. This is what white hippies do, and you know, this is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. This is LSD. You know, you burn up your brain cells and things like that, and that's how it's looked at. But clandestinely, over the decades, you've had a large number of people of color utilizing psychedelics, and they weren't broadcasting it. They weren't going to Prague and to Australia and to London speaking about these things. They just did it because it was a personal thing that they continued to do and liked to do, and then there's such a stigma around psychedelics. So when you're out here, you know, because I'm out here, you know, that's, you know, you get pulled over by Interpol in the airport and things like that. What are you doing here? When they get the 6 guys around you after they lock you in the little room, what are you coming here for? Well, I'm a surfer and I like to surf. So you don't look like a surfer. Then they bring your file out and they go, oh, what you there for? And you go, okay, well, you guys got me. What are we gonna do? We're gonna send you back. You know, we're gonna send you back to America. And you know, eventually they let you out, let you go. They try to intimidate you and things like that. But that's what happens sometimes when you're out here and you've made your stance to the world, what you're doing and how you're trying to do it. So Breaking Convention has been good to me in letting me speak and say things and putting things together. You know, there's still some tweaking that we have to do at Breaking Convention. You know, we're in the Albert Hoffman room. You know, I don't know what the sand pit was, but I know somebody has an answer for it. I'm gonna ask a few questions later on. You know, the Maria Sabina room, you know, the Osmond room, the Hoffman room, the sand pit. Downstairs, not only on the right floor. But we're not gonna get into that part of it. The thing is that, could you please? A quote from Nellie Fuller. If you don't understand white supremacy, racism, everything that you do understand will only confuse you, please. The myth of white supremacy runs through 9 different areas: economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And it is pervasive in all parts of the culture, including the psychedelic culture, that there is a class of those that know, that disseminate information, that are the experts, and everyone else is to be served by their particular sensibilities inside of whatever it is they're talking about. Whether it's economics, whether it's entertainment, whether it's war, whether it's psychedelics, doesn't matter. They are the experts. It's been set up that way. But there's many holes in this whole area of understanding. See, this is basically a PhD club, and I'm not against PhDs, and I'm not saying anything. If you got a PhD, fine, but your PhD in economics does not make you an expert in DMT. Because you can write a book or write a paper and get invited to a particular conference, that doesn't make you an expert in it, especially if you haven't used it. Or if you've only used it enough, as Terence McKenna would say, the biggest problem in psychedelics is that people don't take enough. If you take a piss-ass amount of it just to say, oh yes, I've taken DMT. Oh yes, I've taken psilocybin. Oh yes, I've had salvia. Oh yes, I've did this and that and around the clock, but you haven't really delved into it and bitten into the meat of whatever that thing is, to study it so that you can have the bioassay to be able to deliver it to someone else. You don't give something to someone that you haven't taken. I don't care if you're a scientist who wants to be objective. You can do that with microbes and crystals and things like that, but you can't do that with human beings because it's dealing with human being life. I don't give things to people that I haven't taken. I want to see what it's going to do. You have people here today, right now, in these other rooms who are pontificating and have not taken anything, have taken nothing, have written books and papers, who don't have the courage, don't have the balls or the breast enough to be able to go ahead and take the substances that they're going to try to tell you to take and tell you what's going on in your experiences. So, being at a conference doesn't make or break me. I'm here because I choose to come. So diversity in the psychedelic community has to be something real. It can't be just, we got 3 women. All right, now, okay, we can get 2 black guys. Let's get Darren and that other black guy. And okay, now we got 3 black guys. Let's have Darren, Mudu, and let's get a couple of women, but we need some black women too, so that it makes it a little more colorful. Or you get some quaint native people in colorful costumes, and they can be they're the ayahuasca contingency, because ayahuasca is the child of the day. Ayahuasca, the way that it's being given to people nowadays, is not an ancient system of anything. It is a modern system put together basically for white people to come and experience something that they have never done, because most of the ayahuasca is about sorcery. In the ancient times, in the old times, and past 50 years ago, 40 years ago, it's about sorcery. Throwing darts at each other, taking people's wives, making sure the goat is invisible when you grab the string and walk out the yard with it. That's what it was about. The New Age perspective of, this is love, and, let's commune with nature, and bubbles and fairies and angels and all that kind of stuff is a brand new thing. This was about fighting and killing people. And I know that hurts a lot of people's hearts, but what you're talking about comes out of the New Age, which came out of the Theosophical Society right up the street with Madame Helena Petrova Blavatsky and Annie Besant and others who created and ushered in the new age. That's where you get your chakras, and with C.W. Ledbetter and Arthur Avalon with the That's when you get the chakras, your root chakra and your heart chakra and your crown chakra and all that kind of stuff. That's where it comes from, because the chakra was the weapon of Vishnu and Krishna. It is a counter-rotating, 60 million serrated discus that cuts the heads off of enemies when Krishna raises his finger. So the sensibility of psychedelics that we have is not the ancient sensibility of psychedelics. But that doesn't mean that new things can't be introduced. It doesn't mean that love isn't part of it. It doesn't mean that beauty isn't part of it. It means that it's not just one thing, what someone's trying to make it. It is all things. It is all possibility. The rabbit hole is so deep with these things that there is no bottom to it. And for people to disrespect it by saying who is what and what is who is criminal in the psychedelic community. Don't tell me because you have your PhD that you can tell what's going on. I have sense enough to know that I don't know what I'm doing with this stuff. And I'm honest enough to tell you, I don't know what I'm doing. What I do is I take a boatload full of mushrooms, eat it, go sit down in the bed and grab the covers and hold on. So that if I fall, I'll only fall to the floor. And if I fall on the floor, I'll only fall through the floor. So I've been in some deep and dark, novel, exotic, crazy, weird, profound places, taking 30 and 40 dry grams of mushrooms. Breakthrough DMT, consciousness altering events inside of my consciousness. If you've taken DMT and you've been in the DMT world, 30 to 40 grams of mushrooms is 2.5, 3 hours in that world. And it's not to say I'm better than anybody, I take more, because the woman that was just previously on that slide, she was right with me. You want to take 30, let's take 30. You want to take 35, let's take 35. You want to take 40, let's take 40. So diversity in the psychedelic community, what does that mean? It means that some folks stand down to give the floor to somebody else. You have 16-year-olds in their basement ordering mimosa off of YouTube, going to the hardware store, getting drain cleaner, going to the car place and getting battery acid, cooking up DMT, mixing it with herbs and things like that. Where's Julian at? Okay. Mixing it with herbs, making changa and things like that, and smoking it in their basement. Johnny, what are you doing down there? Mom, leave me alone, I'm smoking DMT. Okay, because mom doesn't know what that is. As long as you're not using weed. Have more experience and mileage in the multiverse than so many people who are faking the funk. We have our own psychedelic music. It wasn't just the Grateful Dead. Make my funk the P-funk. That's psychedelic music. When the mothership descends. So yes, we need diversity in the psychedelic community. We need the folks in the holy citadels of psychedelic elitism to come down, to stand down, where they sit in the audience. They don't speak this year. Next year, it's going to be none of the top tier folks. They're going to sit in the audience and let this person speak and that person speak. Because I know people, I come to these conferences, I don't always speak, but there's people in the audience who be giving me experience. I be saying, you do that? And they're just sitting back and, you see them the next year, and yeah, I did this and that, and I went here and there, and, let's let those folks speak. We sit down. We're just gonna find folks, oh, you've been to 10 conferences. You've been here ever since the beginning of Breaking Convention. You know, we know you know something. We're putting you on the bill next time. You're gonna be the one who gives the keynote. I love John Hopkins and their work, but you know, I mean, same. See, I don't, when we do our little psychedelic conference, we don't have no sponsors. So I'm not worried about offending somebody. You know, well, they're not gonna give us the grant to secure the building, and we won't be able to bring in a big speaker because we're not getting the grant. No, we do it out of our pockets. We do it by selling tickets. That's what we do. So, you know, I seen 3 or 4 folks run out the back door to let them know what I was saying in here. Yeah, he's talking about PhDs, and he said, we know he was talking about you. No, as I said, if you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, the only one hollers is the one to get hit. Thank you.